Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
Good evening, Malcontents. I am the Malcontent, and welcome to another edition of Malcontentment Happy Hour. Good news edition. I'm not being sarcastic. I know I'm snarky and I'm sarcastic at times. Is he being snarky? No. We are starting with good news. We're going to have some in the middle, and we're going to finish with good news. Let me show you what the finish is. We're going to unbox on a live. Got another package. Love you guys. And we actually have two packages. Doing another one for Splendid Saturday. But we're going to finish with unboxing alive. Wendy, Heidi, Rashi, Catherine, hello. And hello to all of the Malcontents out there on the channel. Do we want to get into it? Let's just dive into it because there's a lot that we have to cover in the good news department. And so I'm always like to start these off when we talk about topics that some people find intense and scary with a quote. And the quote that I lead off with is from Marie Curie. And that quote is, "Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood." Now, this is a bit of an ironic quote from Marie, considering what happened to her. If you're not Maria Curie, she played around with radium and radiation and discovered a lot of things about it, and it ultimately killed her. And this is why I love starting these live streams when we talk about COVID. That's part of the good news. Seriously, I'm so excited to get to the good news. Is because we are talking about a topic that some people find scary. But don't let fear control your life. This isn't fear-mongering. Information is power because then you can make sound decisions. There's nothing scary about studying rattlesnakes, as long as you respect rattlesnakes while you're studying them. It's the same thing with this. And so with that said, let's jump into it. I have good news. It's like, will you just get to the good news? You keep saying you got good news. The IHME... Oh, wait a minute. We got to back up for a minute. I got to back it up. We got to back it up 2 seconds. Spam those hearts. If you're watching us, I forgot to do the shout outs across the channels because I'm excited. If you are watching us on Facebook or Twitch, go ahead and spam those hearts on Twitch. You could use the remotes if you're a subscriber on there. If you're on YouTube, you can give me some love. I like love. You can do that too. And of course, if you're on TikTok, you can give me love also. And on Twitter, if you're watching us on Twitter, you can't do anything. All you can do is Twitter on there. But go ahead and spam those hearts. Let those mods and admins know that you really love them because they're working really, really hard. And if you're watching us on Facebook or Twitch and you're not feeling very hearty right now, you can go ahead and give us a like. I forgot to give our mods and admins a shout. I always do. Let's get get to the good freaking news. Rashi, thank you so much for that. I see that on the channels there. Thank you for the follows, you all. IHME, new forecast model. It came out 2 hours ago. I am so glad that we looked at it one more time because we wanted to look on a number and it was like, wait a minute, this is all changed. And we were like, worried that maybe, the website was something wrong with this. And it was like, oh no, they had just updated the model. According to the IHME, Washington State is past peak on cases and way past peak by a good week, not just Western Washington, the entire state. And it looks like peak hospitalization is next week because we're already week in. This is tremendously good news because our hospitals are literally on the brink. We are so close to crisis standards of care in the state of Washington right now, but we are not there. And we might actually be able to avoid it if their forecast model holds. I'm encouraged by it. Longtime malcontents are going to know. I've kind of been on the IHME forecast because I find that they're conservative. The reason I'm really encouraged by this is the update is so close to the finish line. The analogy I used with the team, this is like when we do a weather forecast and we're talking about snow and we're doing that final, we think this is how many inches it's going to be. And it's like 6 hours before the first snowflake is falling, which is like about as accurate as you could get and still call it a forecast, right? Because you go once the snow's falling, you're cheating. So I'm putting a lot of weight in this. And there's another reason why I'm putting a lot of weight in this, because there's another thing that happened that looked like horrible data at first. But when we dug into it, it all made sense. And I actually think that there is a very strong case that all of Washington State, there's a couple of counties. I will say this, Washington wine country particular. So Yakima, Tri-Cities, Walla Walla, I still don't think you're over the finish line. You might be peaking this weekend. It sure looks like the rest of the state, maybe a couple of other far eastern Washington counties might be lagging behind. But I think everybody is well past peak or at peak. Super, super good news. This is funny, like half the people left with good news. Okay, let's get into the next thing, because we try to answer these 3 questions in each of these. Is Omicron more transmissible than Delta? Yes, with an asterisk. Why is there an asterisk? The asterisk is there because we don't have a peer-reviewed study that says that. We are going off of the data that we have. By the time we get a peer-reviewed study that says it, this is all going to be over. We've been saying that for 2 months now. Is Omicron more vaccine resistant? Yes, it has high VE, and we have an asterisk next to that also for the same reason. We don't have a peer-reviewed study that we can look at that says, factamundo, buddy. Yes. Is Omicron more severe than Delta? I'm pausing for a comment. I saw something about Eastern Wa. Nobody's doing hot. Like I see Eastern Wa's not doing hot. The hospitals are on the ropes. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm talking about cases. I'm not talking about hospitalizations. I'm saying we're past peak on cases. Hospitalizations, and if you're watching us on our other channel, by the way, if you want to see slides, there's slides. You can watch us on malcontentnews.tv. Malcontentnews.tv. That'll take you right to Twitch. And there's slides. And you go look at them there. You don't need a Twitch account. You don't need a Twitch app. You can do it right in the browser or even on a mobile device. You will get a little pop-up that says, are you 18? And you can just go, yeah, I'm 18. And then you're going to say, there's nothing on this thing anyway. It's going to be anyway, so, but it's a Twitch thing. You sure you boys are 18? Because we're going to be talking about contagious diseases today. Is Omicron more severe than Delta? We've updated that slide from last week. There's a no with an asterisk. Why is there an asterisk? Same reason. We don't have a peer-reviewed study that says that. But the evidence is pretty strong that Omicron is not more severe than Delta. I didn't say the M word. Mild. I didn't say that. I just said, is it more severe than Delta? Because let's remember that Delta was the monster. Is it more severe than the original strain? I would say yes, with an asterisk. We don't have a study to show it. More severe than the alpha strain? Maybe on par with alpha. Don't have a peer-reviewed study. But there's nuance. When we say it's not as severe, there is nuance. If you're fully vaccinated and boosted, much less severe. If you're fully vaccinated but not boosted, less severe. Your prior infection plus vaccinated, much less severe. Prior infection, maybe a little, depending on when you were infected. If you're unvaccinated, you've never been infected, there's no difference. You might as well just go get Delta. That's kind of what and if you are under 5, the data there is showing it is more severe. For people under 5, our kids, the ones who can't get vaccinated, don't have a lot of treatment options either. The data is coming out of South Africa as they're coming towards the end of theirs that, yeah, it is more severe. And it's not mild. Stop calling it mild. Okay, I want to talk about the MMWR report from the CDC that came out on 1/19, the one that a certain subset of people have really glommed onto. It was studying people vaccinated versus previous infection vaccinated versus unvaccinated with previous infection versus raw dog in the world completely. California, New York study. They were looking at people infected with COVID, and they were looking at the Delta variant, number 1, and they were looking at vax was prior. They were looking at prior infection, and then vax. And what they came up with was vax plus prior was the winner against Delta. Prior, so you had a prior infection confirmed, was in second place, and vax came in third place. And some people have latched onto this on the headlines, and there's been some deceptive headlines. Daily Caller, I'm kind of looking at you, at that really crappy headline that you had up there, that in the story you actually linked to the Hill. And when you linked to the Hill tweet that you linked to, it had a totally different story on there, and you can't edit tweets. Do better. There's a big but to this report. One, it is a report. People are calling it study. There is a huge difference between a report, a study, and a meta-analysis. And this was a report. The second thing is, it didn't account when a person was vaxxed or which vax they got. So they didn't account for were people vaccinated less than 180 days or more than 180 days. They had no booster cohort. They didn't track if people had boosters or not. For asymptomatic previous infections, they didn't capture the data. So in other words, for the people that were unvaccinated and saying they have no prior infection, they don't know, because if it was asymptomatic, did they have it? Likewise, there could be people in the cohort that were vaccinated only, but had a prior infection, but it was asymptomatic, and they didn't know. They didn't have a cohort on prior infection severity. They were not able to break out people who had mild, moderate, or severe. They didn't have that. And it didn't consider Omicron at all. Now, I'm not poo-pooing the report. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm spitting facts. So, we got that. There's another report, though, that came out. If you're on malcontentnews.tv, you can see that. It came out a few hours ago. That's also from the CDC. It's also an MMW report. And this one looked at boosters specifically, and Omicron, and Delta. It was 10 states instead of 2. I love the sunglasses, rock and roll! It looked at 10 states instead of 2. Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Texas, California, New York, Minnesota, Indiana, and I left a couple of off, and I'm just reading that for the folks on TikTok who can't see the slides. Looked at both Delta and Omicron. Against hospitalization, this is what they found. mRNA vax plus boosted, number 1. Vax less than 180 days, no booster, number 2. Vax more than 180 days, number 3. And unvaxxed, number 4, and way behind. Omicron, I take that back. On Delta, the gap between, I take that back. Let me wind that back because I flipped the slides. I was talking about Delta first and then Omicron. On Delta, the gap between vaxxed more than 180 days without booster and unvaxxed there was a gap, but it was narrow. Now, the other study, or the other report that looked at only New York and California had it flipped around, right? They had it like this instead of this, but it was close. So you could split the difference between the two and say it was equal against Delta. So if you're in the camp, I'm going to give you a bone. If you're in that camp, the data is kind of supportive, right? But on Delta. On Omicron, totally different. mRNA plus boosted, there was just no competition on the risk. Then vax less than 180 days, but it was a big gap. And then vax more than 180 days was an even bigger gap. And then unvax was even a bigger gap. Okay, you bagged on the other report with all the other problems. So what's the problems with this one? There are. Not problems, but there's things you got to consider. The median time period when people got boosted in that study was only 41 to 44 days. So a lot of people in there were recently boosted. And we know that when you're recently boosted, your immunity is sky high. Doesn't answer the question on what happens 5, 8, 12 months from now. Omicron cases is a smaller sample set because Omicron was only becoming the dominant strain while this was going on. And the other thing is they were only doing SGTFs, Fscape target failures. They were not going through and doing the full lab analysis to go, this is Omicron. So there's probably some Delta mixed into that Omicron data. And the sample set, statistically valid, it's about 37,000, it's in the 30,000s. It's 35 or 37K. It's escaping me at the moment. With that said, it's a relatively small sample size compared to the number of Delta cases were in that study. And if you need any more validation, there's a slide up there, which is a slide we've shown on the study that showed boosters for Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson and how effective they are. And it also compared natural immunity to that in those charts. I'm not going to go through it again because we've just beaten that into the ground. Where else is everybody going? Wow, there's a bunch of people and like everybody, I said there was good news and everybody left. And am I supposed to do doom and gloom TikTok? You don't want, is a little bit. Is Delta still here? A little bit. Do I believe in getting a second booster? I don't have an opinion on it. I know that there's a small study out of Israel that isn't very supportive of it. So that's what I know. I deal in science, I deal in facts. And right now there isn't not a lot of information in there. And the little bit of information there isn't super supportive of a fourth booster. There's a couple of exceptions. People who are severely immunocompromised. There is supportive data that it helps. But for general public, again, that study, I love the sunglasses. Darn, I didn't move fast enough. The Israel study, there again, it's a really small sample set, but wasn't very encouraging on the second booster, fourth or third. No, it'd be third shot or fourth shot. If you got the J&J. Anyway, I'm confusing myself. All right. We got a thing up here in the slides for everybody else about disease-acquired immunity, because let's talk about this again. There was a study, not a report. Omicron disease-acquired immunity drops about 240%. So in other words, you had Delta and you're relying on that to prevent Omicron. We have tons of data out of South Africa that shows that was a big nope on a rope. And then the study that just came out, or report, MMWR report, that just came out, also supportive of that. Let's talk about South Africa real quick. Why are we talking about South Africa? Because South Africa can inform the models on what's going to happen here next. We've been tracking everything that's going on in South Africa there, and you could really say that the Omicron wave is coming to an end. Well, wait a minute, everyone said it ended. No, it hasn't really ended, because the cases peaked, the hospitalizations peaked not that long ago, actually, January 6th. But it's not really clear if mortality's peaked there. But cases have dropped down to below, a 7-day moving average is now dropping around to about 4,000, 3,700 to 4,000 there, and it is continuing down. Something that is really important, not just for Washington, the entire United States, the data out of South Africa and what we're seeing in the UK, we're seeing this in the UK also. It does not come down as fast as it goes up. It'll come down to about 35 to 50% of where it was, and then it lingers, meaning new cases, and it drags out. And if you could see the slides, malcontentnews.tv, you would see the slide that shows the 7-day moving average and the daily numbers, and we've been tracking that. They had 3,520 positives in South Africa today. That would be yesterday now. 10% positivity, which is really good news because they were up at like 37%, but 10% still means they're under testing. So there is more Omicron going around than what they realize. The recovery rate of recovery, another slide that we have here. This is the biggest indication that things are coming to an end there. If your rate of recovery started at about 96.5%. So what that is how many people have fully recovered from having a COVID infection in South Africa? So prior to the arrival of Omicron, that was at 96.5%. It dropped almost to 90%. And I want people to understand that isn't yeets. I know TikTok gets upset if you say the D word. It's not yeets because we don't know if someone's going to recover if they're in the hospital, right? So that line's going down as the number of cases build up. But as the cases go down and the people recover, the line goes the other way. We started at 96.5%, roughly. So that means about 3.5% of people in South Africa have died from COVID infections through the whole thing. And it's at 95% now. So they're coming to the end. So that's more good news. All right, next thing where you can't see, yeet, mortality. And again, if you're watching on our other channels, you're like, why is he saying yeet? Because TikTok gets mad if you say certain words. It's a pretty Orwellian app. Hi, China. We love you. We love you, China. Yay, China. You have me on the record saying that, China. TikTok forever. Not being snarky. Snark, snark. 7-day moving average is up to 100. It's been as high as 105, and it's been bouncing around between 105 and 90 for close to 2 weeks now. So we're seeing a long, drawn-out mortality rate there. And so it's not really clear. It's not breaking above 105. So it looks like the numbers have peaked, and that's a day. So 105 people a day now are dying. That ain't Delta. This is way past Delta. This is Omicron. 82% unvaxxed. 82%. Hospitalizations. This is the one. This is the slide that makes me go, I don't like this slide. We look at hospitalizations. Hospitalizations peaked there between December 31 and January 6th. But then they've lingered at a very high plateau until almost like the 16th. It's starting to go down. It's starting to go down faster. However, if we account for the 7-day moving average of 100 people, mortality a day, a lot of that decline that we've seen this week, unfortunately, is people not leaving the hospital upright. It's been, this is the cycle, and this is why we've been saying the data is very supportive. If you are unvaccinated and you end up in the hospital, the course of disease follows other variants. And that's what the data is showing in South Africa. I had somebody put a comment in TikTok, you should look at the data in South Africa and get back to me. I ignored it. I could quote all these numbers off of my head and like quote off the URLs where they come from and the organizations that produce them, but okay. So what does this teach us? New cases peak after about 28 days. That's happened. We're way past 28 days of the arrival here in Washington State. Good news. New cases don't decline as quickly as an initial surge. We need to keep that in mind. Peak hospitalizations are 14 to 21 days after peak new cases. We are a good 7 to 10 days past peak cases now. In the state of Washington, 6 to 10 days. That's why it looks like we're getting close to peak hospitalization. Peak hospitalization sustains for 18 to 25 days. That's the part that's kind of like, because our operational tempo in the hospitals is unlike anything they've seen in this state. We are so on the brink. There is literally, there are no more stopgaps. We've stopped almost every surgery. The National Guard is deployed. There's nothing left. I'm hearing anecdotal stories from people that I trust that on the state of some hospital. Like, for instance, I give you one where this is anecdotal, it's public information. Multicare Auburn, 195-bed hospital in Auburn, Washington. They're at 170% capacity. I did not stutter. 170. That's 332 patients. They have patients in the operating room. They have patients in the hallways. They have patients wherever they can put them. And because Washington State, when it comes to crisis standards of care, has a Q-ish, I say this sarcastically, a Q-ish view of where we go one, we go all. They will not allow one hospital to go into crisis standards of care. The whole state will, or nobody will. We will find a place for this person. So if Auburn Multicare is at crisis staffing levels, meaning but for CDC, which means, oh, you're sick and you have moderate symptoms? Oh, good. When can you come into work? And if they have 332 patients, according to the Washington State Hospitalization, source for that is King 5, and we have a policy of spreading it out as good as we can, that should inform you on the situation at the other hospitals in Western Washington. I'm hearing some stuff about Evergreen, Kirkland, like, whoa. And also Peace Health, Vancouver. I'm hearing some whoa from down there. And I'm hearing some whoa out in Spokane. I know the two big hospitals in Spokane are back against the wall. So let's hope. Let's really, really hope this IHMA forecast is right. Mortality starts to peak around or starts to increase around new cases. And this is exactly what we're seeing. We're starting to see about 30 people a day in the state of Washington. In King County in particular, our mortality rate right now in King County is about as high as it's ever been. The only exception to that is when it first arrived and we started hospitalizing people en masse in late February of 2020. That's the only time the rate has been higher in this state or in King County. It will continue to go up. We have a slide. We'll get into that. Mortality doesn't peak for at least 21 days after hospitalizations peak, because we don't know if the peaks come in South Africa. Unvaccinated, case we already talked about, and children under 5 are hit harder. That's information out of South Africa. Let's talk about the United States. 63.1% of everybody in the United States is vaccinated against this mofo. It's not enough, but I think it's as good as it's going to get. Disappointing. 748,000 lab-confirmed COVID cases on 119, according to the New York Times. United States is past peak. That's down about 10% from where we were a week ago. So the United States is past peak. 22.9% positivity rate, which is positively awful, but it is a percent better than a week ago. So that's another sign that things are improving. Daily new hospital admissions right now, so the number of people that are being admitted to the hospital with COVID is at a record level. It is exceeding anything that we've had. So that's according to the New York Times. A record was broken on January 15th. We have 159,341 residents in the United States hospitalized with COVID. I believe that is a record. 26,558 are in the ICU. We're losing 2,029 of our fellow residents in this country every day. That is equal to December 4 of 2020. There's a typo in the slide, which people can't see, which is 2021. So we are almost at the same number of people. Now, it got a lot worse into January, but we're starting to hit numbers that we haven't seen that are exceeding the previous peaks. Every 43 seconds, another American or another resident in this country is dying. Every 43 seconds. I'm doing the math in my head here. So the time I've been talking here, about 45 people since we went live. It's kind of sobering when you think about it. It's like a bus. It's an entire busload of people. All right, 12.2 million workers are sidelined with this, or they might have flu-rona. That's where flu-rona comes from. Remember, flu-rona is just marketing. It's fear marketing. Coming to get you. Flu. 9 million are sick, 3.2 million people either have comorbidities to the point that they're waving out of work or they're caring for somebody. That's 9.5% of the American workforce as of January 10 is out sick. That's why your store shelves are a little thin. That's why the mail's a little slow. That's why the FedEx package we were expecting, if you saw that TikTok, didn't show up today. We're going to talk about them. They're very unhappy with us. Monoclonal antibodies don't work unless it's Sotrovimab or Evishield. Evishield isn't meant as a therapeutic. It is meant for people who are severely immunocompromised and can't get vaccinated, have a legitimate reason, medical reason they can't get vaccinated. There's a reason that I bring this up, because we're going to talk about Florida, my favorite state. Ron DeSantis pitched a fit. There's no other way to put it. And the Biden administration said, okay, you want Regeneron? Doesn't he have connections to the stock and stuff with that? And some other people on the right? You want Regeneron? Fine. Here's 15,000 doses. Have at it. So the Biden administration, if you're a medical person, you're like, what? Because it doesn't work at all. And the Biden administration said, fine, here's 15,000 doses. They're all upset because they asked for 30,000 doses. They have opened up clinics. They want 15,000 more doses. And the doctors in Florida are saying, you might as well just get people sugar pills. But they're giving them to people. Some of them are going to get better because they're just going to get better, and some of them are going to experience the placebo effect, which is very powerful if you look at the research on that. Way to go, Florida. Oh, meatloaf. This is a tough one for Gen X. This is a really tough one. 74 years old. Family members tested positive for COVID per his daughter, Pearl Aday, on January 7. Didn't say anybody was symptomatic. There is no positive confirmation, no pun intended, that has caused the death with COVID. I know the headlines, but if you read past the headlines, it is reported as someone said, wink, wink. The TMZ is pretty good. They're not, we're not talking World Weekly News when we talk about, because that's the source, TMZ, but they're not 100%. They get more than a couple of things wrong. So we don't know. There's no information on his vaccination status either. Everyone's tight-lipped. And I get it. When this happens and they don't want to talk about it, it probably means no. Probably. Outspoken on masks and vaccine mandates as early as August 2021, railing about a situation in Australia. There are other things. And I'm going to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about ableism, because there are other people that have jumped on. Well, he had a lot of health issues going on. Apparently, he's been pretty sick in general. And of course, he has struggled with weight. He also, I don't know if a lot of people know this about Meatloaf, crippling anxiety his entire life. He has dealt with mental illness and crippling anxiety his entire life. This is why after the album, Bat Out of Hell, came out, 77, I think, he disappeared. Like, just poof, he was gone. He couldn't perform. He couldn't get on stage. Debilitating anxiety. And that's why the second album was so long to come out. And of course, Bat Out of Hell, one of the greatest selling albums of all time. If you've never listened to it, you should listen. Don't just listen to like 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad and Paradise by the Dead. It's a rock opera, first of all. It tells a story. The whole thing is connected and it tells a story. And the last song is For Crying Out Loud. If I just got chills, like literally just thinking about that album. Like I'm going to go listen to it after this. Disinformation, this is what happens. This is what disinformation does. And this is a knee to the groin for Gen X. Oh, Fight Club. His name was Robert Paulson. His name was Robert. Blow it up in the comments. His name was Robert. Let's do it for Meatloaf. Seriously, blow it up in the comments. All channels. His name was Robert Paulson. Love and Death in an American Car, best song. Oh my goodness, Alex, you got to listen to it on vinyl, and I totally agree. And maybe it's because I'm Look, if you're Gen X, you slow dance to this song in middle school. And you're like, if you're like maybe a dude, like, what's going on down there? Oh my God, I have to, no, don't you, I don't understand what's going on in my pants. I'm dancing to 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad, don't get too close to me. I feel funny. If you're Gen X, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Robert Paulson was his name. I love it. I'm seeing this in here. I love it. Oh my God. And Eddie, yes. Right? I think a lot of people realize he wasn't just a musician, right? He was an iconic actor. Almost everything, if you think about it, everything he did was epic. Everything. His role in Fight Club was epic. His role in Rocky Horror Picture Show, epic. Bat Out of Hell, epic. I think it's Return to Hell is the second. I know some people are like, yeah. I'm like, really? Really? I mean, like, Bat Out of Hell's here. Yeah, maybe it's here, but damn, do you know how many artists come out here and then are just like, on the second album? Come on. Everything he did was epic. And something I learned about him today, there was this whole, if you remember Chef Aid, it's like one of the original, I'm talking to you Gen X, maybe millennials too, the original Chef Aid from South Park, and like his name was Couscous, and he was a vegan, or like, and he was vegan and stuff. He was vegan apparently, and he did switch over. So I just thought that was a joke with Chef, but no, like Chef didn't tell him to change his name to Meatloaf or anything, but he really was apparently a vegan at one point, and he tried to be it again, and it didn't work out. Anyway, I want to talk about Because versus With, because this is something everyone goes into. I'm going to go through this one real quick. You can go to malcontentnews.tv if you want to see that. And by the way, don't forget, you can spam those hearts right now. Let our mods and admins know that you really appreciate the hard work that they are doing today, because they are working hard. New York, Because versus With, 58-4. What do you mean by because? Because of COVID or with COVID? I'll get into it. So in other words, somebody is in the hospital because of COVID versus somebody showed up in the hospital, car accident with compound fractures in their legs. And, we tested you for COVID, and guess what? You actually have COVID. So because with. Washington, 67-33. Nationally, during the original strain, 75-25, it dropped to 55-45 with Delta. And I brought receipts. I'm not going into this. If you go to malcontentnews.tv, you can see the receipts. But I brought receipts on those numbers. I'm going to do a case study. One hospital, Evergreen Health in Kirkland, releases graphics once a week, and they've gotten really granular. And the bad news, and just kind of bad news, if you've ever done statistics, you need a sample size of at least 32. I actually don't understand where the 32 comes from, but you need a sample size of 32 to have a valid sample set. So in order to analyze this, we need more than 32 COVID patients and we have more than 32. We have a lot more. There's 54 when they did this graph on Sunday. 54 hospitalized COVID patients. 36 are there because 67%. So 18 are there with 33%, which aligns with what the state of Washington is seeing, 65-35. Don't get pedantic on 2%. 25 of those patients of the 54 are vaccinated. So that's about 55-45. And you're like, ha! The vaccine doesn't work. You just proved it. Of the 18 people that are vaccinated, who are hospitalized with COVID, there are 18 people that are hospitalized there, right, with COVID. So again, I use that example of you've had a terrible day. You were in a car accident. You have compound fractures in both of your legs. And despite the fact that we may have to put you in a linen closet for a room, you get to stay with us and wait for surgery. Is that really happening? A linen closet? Maybe. Maybe not at that hospital. But I'm hearing things at some others. Out of those 18 of the incidentals, 12 are vaccinated. 67%. So the because with, a majority of the with are people that are vaccinated, which kind of shoots holes in the, see, it doesn't work because these are people that are showing up and just very well may be asymptomatic, and as part of screening for the patient so that we don't put somebody, because let's say you have somebody who is a cancer patient and they have landed, they're vaccinated, and they have landed in the hospital because of a flare-up, and despite the situation, we have to put you in a hospital bed to stabilize you. We don't want to put that person, we don't want to put somebody who is with, that is in a bed next to them, because bad things are going to happen to that cancer patient potentially, right? Because they're immunocompromised and they're taking drugs and they're trying to control something. So that's why they do the testing. The graphics up on the chart. The masks help. I'm seeing a comment here from Alex on the other channels, and yeah, masks help. Let's talk about Center for COVID Control, one of my favorite topics. Operations have been suspended indefinitely, but they are hoping that at some point after a full audit of everything that they will be able to open again in the near future. That's not happening. They're in so much trouble. Minnesota AG has filed 2 lawsuits. Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Oregon, because I know people from Oregon were warning us about these people in October and like nobody cared. And then they kind of disappeared for a little while and then they came back. Illinois, all of them investigating. They probably got pending lawsuits and all of that. The feds did a CMS inspection and they had to write an 82-page report. These guys aren't opening again. They're in huge trouble. North Shore Clinical Labs. We've made them big mad. We've made some of the people connected in that ecosystem, they're big mad. I seriously may have to do a GoFundMe big mad. So there may be a GoFundMe next week. Because I really don't like using the money that people have donated to us that we use for things like supporting BIPOC, homeless outreach, LGBTQIA issues, and literally keeping the lights on for paying lawyers. That's not what that money's meant for. But we have a very strong case. But I'm just letting you know. North Shore Clinical Labs has had to shut down multiple locations in Chicagoland as of the 20th. That wasn't reported by us. It was reported by other news agencies. Hi, Mohindras, or your lawyers. They're under investigation in the state of Nevada and Washoe County, and they're getting ripped to pieces by Channel 4 out there in Washoe County, Reno. Great job out there in the investigation journalism. Multiple client complaints across the entire United States. They have suspended all third-party testing as of January 17th. If you go to North Shore Clinical Labs, you get a pop-up that goes, we're not doing third-party testing, but get this. If you also go onto Google, type in North Shore Clinical Labs with the quotes so you don't get a bunch of noise in the search results. They are opening testing places all over the place, all across the country tomorrow, including one right outside the gate of Disney World in Florida. And if you look at the ones that they've opened in the last couple of weeks, and if you go like track down, you just do 30 seconds of searching, you're going to find lots of complaints. Never got my test results. Everything was sketchy. Or it took 12 days to get my test results. Or I was told I had to go back in. Or the other one that we've been seeing some people say, I was told not to do with my insurance, but to say I have no insurance. So just put you have no insurance. We don't want to see your no insurance. Just put no insurance. See, here's the thing. And I'm going to talk about the other one, and then I'm going to get to the punchline. That's North Shore Clinical Labs. Let's talk about GS Labs. Washington State. GS Labs. They've been sued by Premera for overcharging for COVID tests. Lawsuit was filed October 2021. Multiple insurance carriers are refusing to work with them now because they've been billing insurance carriers as high as $989 for a PCR test, which costs about $41. Their pushback is, well, we've had to invest and buy all this equipment and it's expensive and we negotiate with insurance companies and this is all very fair. So I'm giving you both sides of the story. We haven't done a lot of research in them. We actually stopped because the people that are connected with them are kind of scary. They're owned by City Plus Ventures, which owns a company called a two-digit number that in China, the number would be considered lucky if it was a one-digit number, and it's one more than 7. But if I say the number on TikTok, I probably get the live killed because it's code for something really fast. Oh, look at that. Someone's already got to the punchline. Yes, it is Fill in the Blank Tactical. Yes, the same company that owns Fill in the Blank Tactical owns GS Labs. Ew. And they're overcharging people. And the accusations that people are making about them, when I say people, you go look. But what people are saying is they're paying 3, 4, in some cases, not in Bellevue, because I know someone's going, they never charged me that in Bellevue. Other places, they've charged people almost $1,000 for a PCR test, which is beyond outrageous. And then they're like, I'm sorry, but your test was inconclusive. We're going to need you to come back in again. And you're going to have to pay for the next test. And that's also what the insurance companies are complaining. It was like, we don't even want to deal with you guys. If you want to learn about City Plus Ventures and a certain company I can't say with a number that is one more than 7, 2 of those in a row, Blank Tactical, do some searching and do some reading. It's gross. I want to explain something to everybody here on private testing. I've spent about 2 weeks down rabbit holes that truly rival rabbit holes when we were looking into stuff going on during Black Lives Matter and going down rabbit holes leading up to the insurrection on January 6th. And I've spent 2 weeks down rabbit holes that are just as like, what? This, who? And they're connected and this is connected. And the folks at North Shore Clinical Labs are opening shell companies as fast as they can. And I've had employees reach out to me with receipts on that. I'm telling you guys, you're going down the wrong path with some of the things you do in North Shore if you happen to be watching or someone's going to share this. I have the receipts. Shea Nursing Service. Excuse me, I had something caught in my throat there. Shea Nursing Service. Interesting. But the address at Swap Motors for Crystal Lab Works and the Mohindras and the address is there too. But you're saying there's no connection. Well, that's real interesting because some of y'all got real sloppy in your social media, like LinkedIn and Facebook. And the connections are all out in the open. Oh, by the way, if you're thinking about turning all that off now, we screenshot and recorded the whole thing. And we've actually already sent it off. And we're also not talking to our lawyer. We're talking to some big news agencies. Big news agencies who are interested in our research because they're moving on to the next flavor of the week. Here's the bottom line. When the CARES Act was passed, I have to stop because this hurts my brain. When the CARES Act was passed by the Trump administration in March of 2020, when this all blew up, they set no limit on what you could charge the federal government for a COVID test. There was no cap, no limit. There wasn't even like a ridiculous limit. There wasn't like, okay, well, we're going to put a limit on 10,000. We'll just put, nobody would be that stupid. No limit. It is beyond a gravy train. It is just, there's people out there going, make it rain, baby, make it rain. And that's what's going on because there's no limit. Here's the bottom line. Almost all the private, not all of them, most of, by the way, GS, North, I never mentioned your name specifically in the statement I'm going to make now. This is a separate and distinct statement. Most of the private testing companies are trash. People don't get the results. They get the wrong results. They get late results. They're getting their insurance overcharged. The federal government's getting overcharged. It's a grift. Most of the private testing stuff is grift. Everybody knows somebody. Everybody knows somebody in life. I've been tested 5 times. I kept coming back negative. I don't understand. I felt terrible. I just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And then I went somewhere else and I tested positive there. There must be something wrong with the tests. No, there's nothing wrong with the tests. Center for COVID Control, the Attorney General of Minnesota is accusing them of not putting names on anybody's tests. They are accusing them of having bags, just trash bags full of tests waiting to be analyzed with nobody's names on them that sat in a non-climate controlled area for 5, 7, 10 days. You're not going to get anything off of those. And in some cases, they just threw the bags out. And those bags are technically biohazard waste? No, they just put them in the regular trash. How many people lost jobs because they couldn't get their test results? How many people decided to show up sick to work anyway because they couldn't get their test results? How many people infected others not knowing because they were told they were negative when the test was never run? And that leads to the next awful question. How many unalives? How will never ever know. I did have some people locally ask me about curative in particular. So I can only comment on curative. Curative looks legit. It's interesting. They must be all over Washington because we did a thing on our Facebook page and then I started getting a ton of questions about curative. And curative never came up in any of our going down these rabbit holes, number one. And the little bit I could see, we did not go deep, but of what I could see, they look very, very legit. So that's why I say, not all, but a lot of them. Okay, so where am I supposed to get tested? Okay, first of all, if you're not aware of this, free home COVID tests for the United States. You go to special.usps.com, whack test kits. 4 test kits per household, 1 kit. There's 4 test kits in the box, 1 box per household. Shipping will start in late January. Yeah, I know. The apartment condo thing is all effed up. I know. They're working on fixing it. I'm not the government. Why they didn't fix it and make sure it was right before, that's on them. And I know that. So, but that's place number 1. You know that those are going to be legit tests. All right, number 2. Where are we at in Washington State? So I wanted to talk national, now we're going to move to Washington State. About 72% of people 5 and older vaxxed. 2.3 million got boosters. We have about 414 staffed acute care beds left in the state. 93 ICU beds. Now, remember when I say that, because wait a minute, you're saying there's people in the hallways and you implied surgical suites and you said a linen closet? But you say there's 414 beds. Remember, we can't fill up every bed. We have to have empty beds, because if all the beds are full and someone shows up in the emergency, remember I said, like, you broke the leg? Oh, wow, you got a bone sticking out. Look at it. You see that? You see that's the bone. That's what the bone looked like coming out of your leg. You have to have some empty beds. Same thing with the ICUs. If you have somebody who comes in and needs an emergency surgery, you need an empty bed to put them. We should have about 1,500 empty beds for acute care, and we should have about 250-ish ICU beds. So we're not in good shape. The case rate, I got to explain this, because people are going to look at these numbers who've been following our updates and they're going to go, what the hell happened? It's a good news, bad news. At first, I was like, you have to be kidding me. You just, how bad can our state data get? But you know what? Seeing the IHME forecast and seeing the data and how accurate it is, I'm going to accept it. Our 7-day new case rate today is 1,537.6. Breathe. Breathe. That number is from January 9th. The test results are coming in so fast. They can't process the data before 12 days out. So we're looking at data that's 12 days old now, as of today. That's the bad news. That sounds real. Here's the good news. It's really accurate data, because we've been very suspicious for the last week because the numbers haven't added up. We kept it quiet because we had no evidence. I couldn't go out and just go, what we have been saying, because that's been the footnote, there's missing data, there's missing data, there's missing data. We've been saying that because the state's been saying that. So as much as the 1537.6 sounds like a dumpster fire, that's 12 days ago. And because we got accurate, really accurate data, it supports that we probably peaked sooner than we thought, which is good news, which also then supports the hospitalization peak is probably going to come next week, which is good news. If I hadn't seen this with the IHMA forecast attached to it, I'd really be scratching my head, going like, what the heck did happen? We don't know what test positivity is, which is positively awful, from the state of Washington. We won't know until 2/28, and we're not going to know after 2/28. There's no way. Another thing that the state of Washington is doing, they're only going to report data now 3 days a week. So you're only going to get updates, before we were doing a Monday through Friday, you're only going to get them 3 days a week. You're only going to get a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They're doing it so that the data is more accurate. Read into that what you want. South Africa could hack it. That's not a slam on Washington State. That's a slam on the entire United States. South Africa could hack it. Their data was impeccable. Their data is impressive. Our inability to manage and track this has just been a cluster. Test positivity, 35.2%, according to the UW Virology Lab. Is that bad? That's awful. But you know what? It's 1.5% lower than last week. And that's of 120. 80% of the hospitalized are unvaccinated, according to the Washington State Department of Health. 65% because, 35% with. We already talked about that. 2% ratio. So 2% of cases are turning into hospitalizations. That's not good. That's not where we want to be. All right, let's go through the SITREP report really quick. I'm going to go. People in the other channels, if you have not watched our TikTok summaries, you're going to see something new. You're going to be like, wait a minute, TikTok gets this on the daily? Yeah, they have it on the other channels. So, gray is bad, and everything is gray. Hospitals and case rates, except for the East and the North Central. Let's go over the real accurate numbers for hospitalizations. They're from maybe 5 days ago. The data's fuzzy I would say the hospitalization data is maybe good from Monday, and then there's some gaps. Case rate is from the 9th. Right now, they're reporting 2,280 hospitalized today. 7-day moving average is 2244. We think there's some data missing out of that. Total staff beds, 7,128 available, that's how many in the state. There's 414 empty. I'd already talked about these numbers. 1,941 COVID patients in acute care. That's an estimate. 339 in the ICU, 178 on ventilators. It's 53%. It's kind of around Delta. They're 80% unvaccinated. Like what I say, disease progression kind of matches. If you're unvaccinated, 80% are unvaxxed, 53% ICU is on ventilators. So unnecessary. East Hospital region, that is Palouse, Spokane, Northeast Washington, 971.9. You're just under, but that's from the 9th. Your hospital's critical shape. Probably not telling you stuff you don't know. North region. This is again back to the 9th. So these are the island counties: Skagit County, Whatcom County, 1275. 7-day, that's cases per 100,000, 7-day moving average. Your hospitals are back to the wall. North Central, that's the east slopes of the Cascades, Lake Chelan, Okanagan, 862.8. You're an area that's not at peak. You're one of those. Remember I was saying there's some counties that might peak last? You're in that boat. I don't think you're at peak yet. You're getting there. I think you will peak next week, maybe even over the weekend, because remember this data is from the 9th, but you're not there yet. Your hospitals, again, are not in good shape. And you don't have a lot of hospitals there anyway. Northwest Hospital region, that is essentially the Kitsap Peninsula, Olympic Peninsula, and 1328.0. And your hospitals are you may be the worst in the state. There's nothing. If you live Kitsap Peninsula, Olympic Peninsula, don't do any hold my beer and watch this activities out there. You may be waiting outside and get somebody to see you for a very long time. Puget Sound, King Pierce, Snohomish County, 1,884 on the 9th. Hospitals, same thing. I stated some numbers and examples that are out there. UW Medicine, historical number of C disease COVID patients right now. Nothing like they've seen before. South Central, every time I see that, I think LA. But South Central is Washington wine country. Walla Walla, Tri-Cities, and Yakima, 1184.7. Same thing. I think you're a little behind, just like the East. I think you're a little behind, but I think all three of those areas, I think we're going to go over the top probably this weekend, if you're not already there. And again, your hospitals it's not going in the right direction, but because you're behind, you're maybe just a wee bit better than the rest of the state. Southwest Hospital region, that's Vancouver and the mouth of the Columbia River counties. 1,101, but say that 3 times fast. 1,101.3, and your hospitals are in. It's bad. Clark, I hear y'all. I'm so glad we have peeps that are following us from Vancouver and going help. And I know I've been evangelizing for you, and I don't know what to tell you. I know you need testing resources. I know you need more access to booster shots down there. I hear you. I keep telling you, talk to the local media that's down in that area. And ask questions. And I know that the hospital there is in bad shape, and I know the protesters are outside again over there. I'm sure the hospital staff there really appreciates that. West Hospital region is the last one. So that's Chehalis, Centralia, Olympia, the counties that go around the bottom of the Sound out to the Pacific coast, like Aberdeen, 1,347.6. And your hospitals are in really bad shape. Now, what's interesting is you have a little bit of capacity, but the volume of COVID patients you have in the hospitals is just 35% of acute care, 47% in ICU are there because of COVID. That hurts the brain. I want to talk about one of my favorite people, Brandy Cruz. Oh my God. If you're not familiar with who Brandy Cruz is, you are not from Western Washington. Brandy Cruz was a reporter for Fox Q13. They dropped the Q. They did a rebrand. And they dropped it. And that's nothing against the station. They've had the Q for a while, but they're now just Fox 13. They dropped the Q. I wonder why. She came to the station, I think, like in late 2018, and she was kind of that station's run by News Corp. It is their parent company is News Corp. And she was doing a show, started a show on there, was Undivided. When the show first came out, it felt like it was kind of in the lane of her mission of, I'm going to bring somebody from the left, I'm going to bring someone to the right, we're going to talk about a difficult topic, and we're going to try to find some common grounds in there. There's a video that we find that she did where she does, not a video, but she does a news segment. I think it's late 2018. And she's full on socialist in this one, like full on socialist about the unhomed, and the police shouldn't be the social workers working with the unhomed, and the police are set up for failure, and the unhomed are set up for failure, and we're not dealing with mental health, and we're not dealing with the chemical dependency, and we're not dealing with all of the underlying issues, and we need to be creating a separate organization that does this outreach so that armed police, oh, you mean that's what defunding the police was called in 2020. So you were calling for defunding the police before other people were calling for defunding the police. And now you're like a little fash, reddish hair, Barbie-ish kind of person. She left the TV station and she left all other media, MSM, claiming that she could not tell things the way that she wanted to tell them. This part of the backstory is important. I'll get to the punchline. People seeing the slides already see the punchline. I'll make the slides go away. And I think a lot of people were like, because the station was run by News Corp. And the other thing was a big purge that was going on at Fox 13 in Seattle. They had like 25 or 30% reporters on air talent. And not all of it was purged. There were a couple of retirements. There are a couple of people that had been at that station for ever. MJ Carlson, totally just like MJ Carlson, that's just straight up retirement. Nobody pushed her. She'd been on Seattle TV her entire life, and a well-deserved retirement. Love you, MJ. I doubt you ever watch us, but love you. Anyway, I do think that there were a lot of people like, okay, well, this could be interesting. Was Brandy's editorial direction being controlled by News Corp? Is that what was going on? I know that was my view, because the Brandy Cruz in 2018, I liked. And it's not up for me to like someone or not, but her mission of this Undivided, and I felt that she was kind of looking at things from both sides. And I think at a lot of times that people walked away from it and all sides were happy and all sides were angry. And I know that when I do shows and everybody leaves happy and angry at the same time, I'm like, I did my job. I pissed off everybody and I made everybody happy. Because my job isn't like to just be a parrot in an echo chamber to say the things that you want to hear. That isn't what journalism should be. It is what it's become, but it's not what it should be. Well, anyway, it didn't take very long to figure out that, oh no, her disagreements with Q13 is because she's pretty far down. She's not full anti-vax. She has not come out, but she used a lot of the anti-vax language now. You know how like the anti-vax, they talk on the down low, right? They kind of say to things, I'm not against it, I'm for medical freedom. And I don't know if those words have come out, but, the whole hardcore pro-police thing that's come out. And it's kind of interesting, right? It's like, all right, so you left by your admission over editorial direction that you felt that you wanted to go. Clearly you wanted to lurch far more hard right than where you're at. All right, so big, long story. So now that you know the background, Brandy Cruz put up a thing on Facebook. less than an hour before showtime. In response to a post from Adrian Diaz, who is the chief of police in the Seattle Police Department. For those on TikTok, I know people on the other channels have seen the slide. I'm going to read it for the folks on TikTok. To all members of the Seattle Police Department, nearly 20% of the department tested positive for COVID during the month of January alone. And don't forget, we still got 10 days to go. And dozens of officers are unavailable to work. Because the Omicron variant is so easily spread, the city is providing medical-grade face coverings for all employees. Please get yours and please wear it. We can't afford to have any more people get sick. He is talking to his police force. A memorial to honor K-9 Jedi. There was a Seattle K-9 police officer, a K-9 police dog that was yeeted. I know there's certain words you can't say, and I'm not saying yeeted to be disrespectful. It was unalived during arrest. Will be held. I can't read the date. It's in a color. I can't read it. February 5th. There you go. I just want you won't share that February 5th. The details are being finalized. We'll share when it comes out. Brandy Cruz reposted this. This is what she had to say. We can't afford to have any more people get sick, quote unquote, right? In Seattle, where unvaccinated officers were fired. Can I say this in my Tucker Carlson voice? First of all, you got to look a little swarmy. In Seattle, where unvaccinated officers were fired, nearly 20% of remaining police officers, personnel, tested positive for COVID in the month of January, per email sent out by the police today. See, here's the thing. We were tracking these numbers because the Seattle Police Department and SPOG, the police union, was doing a ton of fear-mongering. A ton. As the vaccine mandate was coming up in the state of Washington for King County and Seattle. A ton of it. All right, so what do we know? 20% of Seattle police officers are COVID positive. Almost, right? That's what the Seattle police chief said. That's not what the Malcontent's saying. SPD saying that. Brandy Cruz blames officers who were fired for not getting vaccinated on the staffing shortages. If you're not familiar with Jason Rantz is another right-wing radio dude. He's pretty far to the right. He's on my Northwest. He's part of Cairo. No, he's on AM. That's right. He went to AM radio. The interesting thing is that Jason Rantz gave us the numbers. We have the numbers, and they're from Jason Rantz. They're not from the Malcontent. You can't look at me and go, liberal, you're lying about those numbers. That's what you're doing. You're lying. You're a liar. Liar, scared people liar. They're Jason Rantz's numbers. He in the tank for SPD. On October 5th, Jason Rantz did a story, mynorthwest.com. You go look it up. Jason Rantz, October 5th, mynorthwest.com. And in that story, he said 150 SPD officers had left in 2021. Now, that's as of October 5. The vaccine mandate kicked in on October 18. On October 19, the city of Seattle reported that six Seattle police officers decided to get terminated instead of vaccinated. Six. That was on October 19. There were another 90 officers, 90-ish. I think 92 if you want to get real pedantic. 90-ish officers waiting for disposition on exemption requests. First of all, the six that left was far less than 1% of the entire police force. Jason Rantz did another story on January 11 or 5. And again, you could go look it up. Jason Rantz, Seattle Police Department, January 2022. There were 170 police officers that quit the Seattle Police Department in all of 2021. So let's do math. On October 5, 150 had left. On December 31, 20 more had left, 20. The most. If we assume that every officer that left from October 6 to December 31 left because of the vaccine mandate, then the number's 20, which isn't even 2% of the entire force. But, you know, let me do my Tucker imitation again. This is why there's crime out of control in Seattle. Because they fired unvaccinated police officers. All 6 of them. Jason Rant's numbers. Brandy Crew's words. I'm just sharing Jason Rantz's numbers and what Brandy Cruz said. And I'm sure that the Seattle police chief, Adri Diaz, feels so supported by Brandy Cruz basically crapping on the police chief, saying, hey, a-holes, you're dropping like flies, wear a mask, please. Oh my God, I just can't. We're going to skip these slides. I'm going to skip some slides. We'll show this slide because this kind of reinforces what I've been saying earlier about what's going on in King County. New cases have peaked. I got a chart up. If you're on malcontentnews.tv, you can see the charts from King County Public Health. Cases have clearly peaked. They are down about 25-ish% from where they were a week ago in King County. Hospitalizations are flattening out, but they are still going up. That's supportive of the IHME forecast. It's exciting. Mortality. Mortality, I talked about it earlier in King County. It's close to the highest level it's ever been. Lots of cases, fair number of people being hospitalized, and you've got that mortality number going up. There's good news here, though. I got good news. One of the things that we were really worried about a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the hospitalization numbers in King County. We're seeing 2.2%, 2.24%. We're like, that number's got to come down. Like, you do the math, we're in so much trouble when you do the math. The numbers come down. It's at 1.1%. Our original forecast, if you've been watching these, our original forecast, do you remember our original forecast from December? Was 1.14%. It's dropped back down to 1.1. Which is good. This is good news. I don't know why it dropped down, and I don't care, to be candid, because this is just another sign. We're reaching peaks, and our hospitals, which just, there's nothing left for them. And if we're like on the razor's edge, and we just might get over the hump. Maybe get over the hump. I would love that. All right, Washington residents. If you're not Washington resident, you can stick around, but just go, well, it doesn't apply to you. You can get free home COVID tests from the state of Washington. This is separate from the feds. If you're a Washington state resident, you can go to, it's a terrible URL, but I promise you it is legit. Say yes, COVID to, I think I typed this wrong, Ed. Typed this in wrong. 1 second here. Did I type this in wrong? I have to see something. Is this a typo? Nope, that's not it. All right, a second. Yeah, there is a typo on the slide. Oh my goodness. I know we had video on this on TikTok. You're going to get to see. Here, we're going to do this. They get technical difficulties on the other channels because I want to make sure we're showing the right URL. Oh, now that makes total friggin' sense. And we're back! It's sayyescovidhometest.org. COVID to me. H to a T. Are they next to each other in the keyboard? I don't even know where that came from. Say yes, covidhometest.org. It's a terrible URL, I know. There are 650,000 kits available. First load, there's more coming. Same thing, it's like the federal setup, but it's not the feds. There are four or five kits in the box, one per household, fulfilled from Amazon. Take about 2 weeks to get them. If you have no internet, English is a second language, not your... thank you for struggling to listen to me. I don't know how you're watching me without internet, but or foreign language. The other thing is, like, you got a neighbor, foreign language, ESL or something. Hey, did you know you get a free COVID test? I can help you. Go here. The phone number, 1-800-525-0127. Non-English speaking, ESL, or you don't have an internet connection. Also, there are some libraries, but I don't have the comprehensive list that have the kits. You'll have to check on your public library sites to see if they have kits. But there are some libraries that have the kits. You can just go in and go, here, have kits. So you don't have to go to scammy, awful places that are just ripping the taxpayers off because it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Or support FASH. Just putting it out there. King County, Snohomish peeps. Keep sticking around, there's more. PCR testing site opening with FEMA, and that opens up tomorrow. It is at the Evergreen State Fairgrounds, 14405, 179 Avenue Southeast, Monroe, Washington. Appointment is required. So you have to set up at ineedacovid19test.com, and then you'll go to State of Washington, go to Snohomish County, and you'll see the fairgrounds. They open tomorrow. Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 6, and then they are open Sunday through Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. to 6 on each day. It is appointment only. And at this point, you might have a hard time finding an appointment. What they've done in the past, when they've opened up these FEMA sites, doesn't mean it's going away Wednesday. They will probably keep adding days, but they don't want people booking too far out. So you will probably have an opportunity to book an appointment, potentially. I'm not promising. But you may have an opportunity to book appointments for Thursday after midnight tonight or very early in the morning tomorrow. So if you're having a really hard time setting up to get a test, the best time is when somebody in the internet figures out when they open up the next round of slots. Just be ready to snipe a slot when that comes in. Again, you don't have to go to GS Labs and get ripped off, or have your insurance company ripped off, or have the federal government ripped off, and you get real honest to goodness PCR tests, and you get real honest to goodness results. Testing site, National Guard has opened up testing site. Washington State peeps, listen up. These will all be open by the 24th. Some of them open today. There's going to be some opening over the weekend. They will all be open by Monday. Providence Regional Medical Center, Everett. You're getting a COVID test run by the National Guard. Yakima Valley Memorial Hospital. You're getting one run by the National Guard. Central Washington Hospital, Wenatchee peeps. You're getting one run by the National Guard. Providence Sacred Heart Medical Center and Children's Hospital, Spokane. You're getting one. Harborview Medical Center in Seattle is getting one. No need to go to the scammy sites. You just go to Harborview. Multicare Tacoma General in Tacoma. Just thought I'd clarify that. If it wasn't clear, you're getting one. St. Peter's Hospital, Olympia. You're getting one. Caldec, I hope I said that right. Caldec Regional Medical Center in Richland, you're getting one. And if anybody's watching from Vancouver, they're probably going, well, wait, what? I know. We asked. I don't know what to tell you. I know it's a huge problem in Vancouver. This is where they're putting them. If I were king, and of course, I don't know, maybe if I was king, I would look at it and go, well, shit. All right, sucks for you, Vancouver. But I hear you. I know. I'm not happy about it. And I just realized I can't see your comments over here. Don't be hating on Harborview. What can you do? We're getting to the end of the presentation, and then I can get into Q&A. Oh, then we get the good part. I open a package. Open a package. If you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated. That's all I'm going to say. You want to have a one-on-one if you're on the fence, I will engage in one-on-one, but I am not going to jump up and down anymore and plead. And your minds are made up. But if you want to have a real conversation, I'm going to listen. I will truly listen. And if you're willing to listen back, then I'm willing to have a one-on-one conversation with you. You just want to waste my time, then no. If you're eligible for a booster, please they're a lot easier to get. I know there's some people that have been discouraged. They are a lot easier to get in Washington State. There are a ton of sites that have opened up for vaccination and boosters. They're way easier to get. Wear a KN95 or N95 mask. Or if you can't find one, can't afford one, then multiple layer, but cloth mask by itself doesn't cut it. Wash your hands. Don't go to crowded indoor spaces. Plan your grocery trip still. Try to do things once a week. I think we're going to still see supply chain bumps, and I think we're going to see supply chain, 10% of America is out sick as of the 10th. So that number's even bigger now. But again, don't go panic buy the store. There's no reason to do that. But you may go to the store and go, the dairy section is empty. You may go to the store and there's no chicken. It's like that's the kind of, or like, where's all the produce today? That's what I'm talking about. You're going to have some patience. You're going to have to plan your grocery trips. February prescriptions, if you can order them now, order them now. All the pharmacy companies are saying supply chain issues, shipping issues, staffing issues. I take Ritalin. Oh my God. This is you stabilized? What happens if you don't take it? I take Ritalin, and for people who are ADHD, as you know, they are super sent. They're like, no, 30 days. You're going to come in on day 28 and you get your next bottle, right? And I hate it. I hate being treated like I'm an addict. So I need these things. The pharmacy where I go, I'm not going to say where I go for my own personal protection, but the pharmacy where I go, they actually just ponied them up to me. I had to go in. I had unexpected oral surgery I was wrecked. When I did your update on Tuesday night, that video, you have no idea how wrecked I was when I did that video. Wrecked. Wednesday was worse. Wednesday I did it for you all. I did. Not saying to guilt trip you. It's not a guilt. I'm like, I was like, people count on me. I was like, my clients, I'm like, I can't. I was like, I can do a 3-minute video. I'll make a 3-minute video. I'm going to put on my happy face to a 3-minute video. Anyway, they were like, here, I was stunned. Like, because they were like, oh yeah, we got him here. So call your doctor, right? If you're on a control, they may release them. Talk to your doctor. Don't let your guard down. Yay! Cases have spiked. Hospitalizations might hit a peak next week. We're on the other side. I can let my guard. No, that's when people get sick. Can't let your guard down yet. But I'm feeling a little more encouraged that late spring and summer is going to be like, well, I'm feeling a little more encouraged. We may be like normal. I think the only thing that'll blow up to getting as close to 2019 as we can is another variant. That just goes, oh, you had Omicron? Yeah, screw you. I walk right past that door. That's really the only thing I think that could screw it up. This is the most encouraged I have felt in months, looking at kind of all the data and all the telemetry that's come in the last 24 to 36 hours. I know, I said it out loud. I see that called Mal's tempting the fates. Oh, Roger, that's tough. Roger, like the first time, like the first day, the first pill, it was like, wait. And then I was depressed. A lot of people, I'm going to sidebar just for a minute. A lot of people, especially when they start later in life like I have, and they start the ADHD meds, right? They get the diagnosis and they were like, holy crap, you are wicked ADHD. How the hell have you functioned? I'm like, because I've been masking this whole time and I can't do it anymore. I'm emotionally and mentally exhausted from masking. I need help. I'm tapping out. I'm Gen X. We don't tap out. I'm tapping out because Gen Z has taught me it's okay to tap out. Love you, Gen Z. I took that first pill and I was just like, oh. Everything slows down, but it all speeds up. People that start ADHD meds know just what I'm talking about. It all slows down so you can speed up. It's wild. And then I was wicked depressed. Oh, terrible depressed. Because then like the thought was like, well, what if I got this diagnosis 10 or 20 years ago? What if this was managed then? Where would I be at in life? Yeah, screw capitalism. Your value is not based on your material output contribution to society. That is not the value of a human being. Interesting thing that I've discovered in traveling the world. You know what's unique to the United States when you meet someone? First question you ask is, what's your name? And the second question you ask, what do you do? That's not how the rest of the world works. If you need masks, don't get them from Amazon. If you get them from Amazon, you buy them directly from Amazon or like the 3M store. Do not buy them from Bob's House of Masks. 60% of masks that are bought on Amazon are counterfeit. ProjectN95.org. By the way, because the word's gotten out about them, their site is slow now, and there's a thing, it could take up to 10 days. Because people are like, oh, you go to ProjectN95.org to get the legit stuff that's not overpriced, and they have child-size masks, and they have the child-size masks with the ear loops and also the back pieces. I'm not a fan of the ear loops, but if you get the kid to wear a mask, ear loops or bands, I don't care. Because even a loose-fitting K95, when I say loose, I mean it's on you, but not like medically fitted. Even a loose-fitting K95 is better than a cloth mask or a paper mask by a landslide. Anyway, ProjectN95.org. We're at the end. Prophetic words. Germans will be vaccinated, killed, or dead by the end of winter. That was German Health Minister Jens Spahn on November 22nd of last year. Prophetic words. Americans will be vaccinated, cured, or dead by the end of winter. And we're seeing it play out right now in real time. And the last quote I always like to end with, knowledge is the best tool to fight against fear. A wise person chooses to be informed so they can make sound decisions. A fool is controlled by ignorance where fear loves to grow. I said that. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our presentation for tonight. Are we ready to open a package? All right. So a few TikTok creators are like, you got like 30, we're up to like almost 40. Who are you people? We're up to like almost 45,000 followers. It's crazy. It's crazy. I love you. But they were like, you should put up a wish list. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah, other creators, they have an Amazon wish list. And, you don't advertise. You just put stuff up there and someone will stumble onto it and no one's going to get me. And that feels weird. I'm Gen X. We don't ask for help. We were told that kids are to be seen and not heard. And we don't ask for help or recognition or pats in the head because we never got them because we were invisible. But anyway, I set it up and you sent me stuff. Let's go. They're going to do another one tomorrow. Both these packages came earlier. Oh, thank you for that. Both of these packages came earlier in the week. I saw a comment from somebody that I know was kind of you have a package. Why haven't you opened it yet? And I haven't opened it yet, but the way that it's packed, I know what's inside. I'm not going to pretend to be happy. I'm not going to but I know what's inside. I'm excited to open it. Going to be excited to show you. But that's not what this one is. This one, I have no idea what's in here. So let's do it. It's been open. Oh, wait a minute. Name. Who is it? It doesn't look like it's anonymous. I'm excited. I'm so excited. I don't know. Maybe it was anonymous. I'm not seeing a name. Oh, here we go. I'm just going to say the first name. Sarah. I know it, but I got a box. I always wanted. No, I'm just kidding. What's in the box? I don't know. Because there were several of these on the website. It was not Sarah Connor, but it was Sarah. Oh my God. Oh, I love you all. It's going to be backwards for you, TikTok. But it's a coffee mug, and it says, "Of course I talk to myself. Sometimes I need expert advice." I have to pull it back there. We have the fixed focus on the camera. Sarah, thank you so much. This is going to live right here. And you'll be, you probably see, maybe they were inspired because I've been doing some of the walking by with the coffee cup. So, Sarah, this is the coffee cup that's going to get used. Oh my God. I love my malcontents. Thank you so much. It is not Sarah Connor. I hope Sarah's seeing this. I hope. Be very sad if Sarah's. He didn't do a video opening my thing. I'm unfollowing the ingrate. Now I feel like I have to do a little mini video. Sarah, thank you. See, people, I love that. I love it too. I love my malcontents. See, I told you we're going to start with good news. It looks like we might be at peak hospitalizations or really close in Washington, which is incredibly good news. And we ended on good news. All right, now we're going to go to your comments and questions. Let me see here. Oh, nobody asked questions in the Q&A tool. You can ask questions in the Q&A tool. And I could see your all screen if you want to see questions on that. Nabibia, I don't know. Don't ask. Hello! We're just kind of hovering for questions here for a few minutes. Corona Beer Dude. We know Corona Beer Dude was arrested. We know what Corona Beer Dude, the charges that they're facing, but I don't know anything else about that. Yeah, Biden masks. I see that question. My understanding is we're gonna find out. I guess they're gonna be distributed at community points. Thank you, Roger. It's a very cool mug. I agree. Yeah, I mean, excited. I don't know if that's the right word. We did the video on that. People at TikTok is like, who is, especially if they're not from Seattle and they didn't follow Black Lives Matters, they're like, who is Corona Beer Dude? I have to be real careful on TikTok about this. There was a protest. There was a dude. He was carrying a box, Corona beer box. But the accusation is it wasn't beer in the bottles. And the bottles didn't have bottle caps on them anymore. They had some soft cloth material on the top of them. And things got a little crazy with SPD. Again, people in the other channels, don't be offended by this. I got to tap dance around the Orwellian world. Love you, China. China, you're amazing. Love TikTok in China. The things we do for social media. Things got really sideways really fast with the police and protesters. The police said it was because of Corona Beer Dude. During when all this was going on, I was doing field journalism on this. We had a thing called Poll Cam, and we became pretty famous because of Poll Cam. It cam on a pole that we could adjust anywhere from about 7 feet all the way up to 24 feet. And when there's a big protest going on, you get these big wide angle shots. And then also, and things got really crazy, I would have what I called my insurance camera, which was a GoPro on the top of my head. And I would turn that on, and that I would call that my insurance camera because that was, if I get in the line of fire between SPD or protesters or what we call chuds show up, and somebody decides to waffle stomp me, then it's all on camera and I'm identified as press, blah, 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 blah. And I also had GoPro on lots of cameras. So for this particular instance with Corona Beer Dude, we had just tons of really accurate, clear video on this. And the big question that we asked was, SPD came in and just dialed things up past 10. They dialed to like 15. And their explanation was, well, Corona Beer Dude. And we have it on video that Corona Beer Dude was isolated practically by themselves at the very, very tail end of the protest with an entire phalanx of SPD officers just right there. Like, this guy was the most wanted guy in Seattle. And they knew what he looked like based on their intel. They identified him in the videos that they had, and even on their body cameras. He's right there. And of course, this leaves, right, it's like, well, wait a minute. This was the most wanted guy in Seattle. This was your excuse for everything that you did in that protest. Federal courts were like, you went too far in that protest. That's when I got drilled by rubber bullets. That's the only time I got drilled by rubber bullets in that one. If you go and watch the video in that protest, I just start cursing up a flippin' storm and just like, it's because I took a rubber bullet right off my friggin' hand. And it really does look like they were trying to aim for the monitor on poll cam, because it was just below the monitor screen was where my hand was placed on there. Anyway, it was crazy. That was crazy. And they didn't arrest him, and they couldn't find him, and they didn't know where he was. It was like, but here's all this video evidence, plus your old body cameras, like, here he is. Anyway, they just arrested the guy. So now you know the whole story about that. Yeah, you know, the friggin' memo today, like this first thing that's come out on the stuff they didn't want us to see. Oh, so your plan, despite the fact that you say that you weren't planning anything like this, was, yeah, basically a military takeover. This is what you were planning. It's all right here. It's all right here. You were planning a military takeover. The one I've been wondering about is Matt Gaetz, right? It's like what's going on with this? And I know his girlfriend it's like, why is this taking so long? I get it. He's a powerful guy. You're not an idiot, unpowerful, unconnected person to get elected to Congress or the Senate. You're connected and powerful, because that's how we roll here, because our government is completely broken and doesn't work for the people. I don't know who it works for. Well, I kind of do. Which is why China's great. Yay, TikTok. Just paying the bills on TikTok. Because his name is in Como. What's my professional background? Well, let's see. I went to Juilliard, and then I was alive during the Black Plague, which was a particularly entertaining time of year. Not to mention that I've seen The Exorcist 137 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time. Now you tell me, do I have experience? My experience basically could be summed up as I have been a writer either in a corporate capacity or a journalistic capacity almost my entire professional career. I did originally, when I got into the tech industry, I started in engineering, went to product management, moved over to product marketing, moved full over to marketing. I actually had my own publication for 5 years. Outdoorplaces.com. It is a shell of a website that is just totally, the website's still up, but it's not even anything. Like, we were the second largest website in our category at the peak of Internet 1.0. I'm an old fossil. And I spun it off in 2004. I was positioned well after that. Not as well as you think. I'm not like bragging, but it all went really well. And so I was a syndicated writer at one point on about 20 different magazines and different websites at one point, and had like an agent and writing stories and traveling all over the United States and taking pictures. And then I went into the corporate world and I did corporate, and corporate's kind of soul crushing. Mal was big tech once upon a time. Oh yes, I have worked for. If you know my real name, you could Google my real name, and a company called Compaq, and your brains will melt. Oh my goodness, I'm like totally dating myself. I was there when there was 34 points of margin and every computer sold net profit. 34 points net profit on every computer sold. So this is when like computers are like $3,000. You sell a $3,000 computer and the company makes $1,000 after all expenses. It was a crazy time to be in tech. I'm not old enough, right? Halt and Catch Fire is boomers. I'm not Halt and Catch Fire. I'm kind of in the next generation after the Halt and Catch Fire phase. Great show. There's some stuff in that show where I was like, it's like I'm right on the edge of some of this stuff. I love Halt and Catch Fire. Some of the things like on the personalities and the infighting, that show really does cover. I know it's in the 80s, but all that extends up into about the mid-90s. And interestingly, Compaq is the one that they destroyed it because they're the company that came out with the $1,000 PC. They came out with systems with a Cyrix processor. What's interesting is the Cyrix processor had video, audio, and the microprocessor all built into one. Oh, wow, wait a minute. That's like what Intel and AMD do now. So it was ahead of its time. And it was an Intel compliant processors that would run Windows. They weren't very good. But the problem that happened is that Compaq was building this entry-level machine that was $999. And they were still selling to Desk Pros, which are the commercial computers, and they're like $3,500. And the commercial buyers are like, wait a minute, time out. How can you build a Presario for $999 and you're charging me for $3,500 for a computer with less specs? Well, because it's built like a boat anchor, which is true, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. The old Desk Pros, up until 99 or 2, they were built like anvils. They'll just run flipping forever. Compaq did all their board designs. Everything was built in the United States. The factory was right in Houston. We would go down as an engineer, go on the factory floor. I had one of the most, as an engineer, had one of the most amazing emotional experiences of my life as an engineer when I was at Compaq. But anyway, that was the beginning of the end. If you're real old Gen X, Compaq got Alta Vista from DEC, Digital Equipment Corporation, as part of that acquisition. They spun off a whole division out to California that was headed up by Rod Schrock, and they ran it all into the ground. Rod Schrock is also the guy who came up with the 999 PC idea, which looked good on paper at the time. I didn't think the strategy all the way out. The luggable PC. Oh my goodness, Amara, now that's way before. Yeah, I'm a little kid there, but the piece, the luggable quasi laptop desktop in a hard case situation they had. Exactly. Unix. I'm not that far back either. Halt and Catch Fire, Rebecca, was amazing. Absolutely amazing show. Tiny. Yeah. So Tiny is a tough lad. That's code. Tough lad. Boy. Tough lad. It's code because I can't say who they are on TikTok. Because China. Love you, China. Yeah, Tiny's in all sorts of trouble, apparently. Arrested in Thurston County over, his love of breaking skulls. I say that metaphorically. And now facing felony charges in Oregon for his love of breaking skulls and everything that was caught on video. When was that? Like 2 or 3 months ago? And it was just all caught on video. That's the one where he was crying. Tiny's had it rough. Tiny got a pew-pew, right? Got a pew-pew to the leg in Olympia. The word was he was hospitalized for a while and extremely sick. Look, I'm a human being. I don't like cheer for people. You may be an awful human being. I may call you out for an awful human being, but I'm generally not going to cheer for you to But the word was he was really, really bad off. And there wasn't a lot of information. But he's in a heap of trouble, and he's kind of used up his strikes, right? Because he's really been pushing the lines and flaunting things. And he's been kind of acting as the leader figure in the tough lads in the Pacific Northwest. And I don't know who's gonna, right? Because the organization, the Pacific Northwest, they're all in jail. They're either insurrection, or there's stuff they did during BLM, or the stuff that they did post BLM has all caught up to them. I say about Swinney, Swinney got he's having to do a dime. That's slang for 10 years. I believe he's pulling a dime, right, in Oregon on 11 convictions. And I just was like thinking to myself, he would have been better off not going and doing all the crazy stuff that he did and go to the insurrection, because he'd already been tried, convicted, and home, and running the show. So that organization's, I don't know who the next leader is, as somebody who kind of watches on the outside of what's going on there. I remember booting up from floppy drives. I have one of the old hard case laptops from Compaq. There is a dude on TikTok, and he repairs really old computers, and he had one of the Presario laptops that I literally worked as an engineer on. And when he was doing his video, he was like, I don't want, I'm like, what is it with them? And I knew everything, right? It's a 486. I just put in the comments, that's a model. And by the way, I was an engineer on that. Never heard back. Whatever. He's probably like, okay, boomer. Not a boomer. I'm Gen X. But I was like instant follow with this, and I would say who it is, but they're all like clickbait videos. Like he'll do a teaser video, and then he never gets to the punchline. He had a Packard Bell, a 94 Packard Bell. That was my first PC. He had that one. He opened it up, and I was like, oh my God. I was inside. I was same thing. Freaking teaser video. Never went anywhere past them. You're killing me, bro. You're killing me. TikTok, I tell you, TikTok is amazing. I can tell you a funny TikTok story. You'll love this. I worked at Gateway too. I was there during a really bad time at Gateway. One day, I am going to write a book. I'm very serious. One day, there is stuff, because I still do some consulting in that industry. So there's just stuff I can't talk about yet. I have stories. I was in, again, if you know what my name is, and you do that in Compaq in a Google search, you're going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? People that figured it out, Life Hack was I want to sit down and have lunch with you. After COVID, I will see, you can sit down and pick my brain all day long. I'll tell you all about it. I've done things. I've done things, and I was in a place at my age, where I was in the right place at the right time. And I did a TikTok about this forever. I had a chance to go to work for Apple Computer in 1998 when their stock was $2.13 a share, and I could have gone work for the man himself. And they couldn't tell me what the job was. They were like, you just have to trust us. And I'm like, I didn't come out and say, you guys are basically bankrupt. You're asking me to move to California or to trust me, and I kind of don't know what the job is. And I'm like, well, have me sign an NDA. And it's it's too secret. So we're not going to have you Phil Schiller, Phil Schiller, who was, the SVP, is basically the number 2, right behind Cook, right? He was the guy recruiting me. I said, no, I went to Gateway. I wouldn't be here. Maybe I would be here because I have an innate sense of social justice in my system. Even if I hadn't survived, because people that got that close to the sun with Steve Jobs, of course, didn't have a long shelf life. His attitude, and he was probably totally on the spectrum. And I know at that I was very rash, and actually people liked that. I think they were thinking like maybe I would be kind of somebody that would stand up for myself in that environment, because I was young and dumb and didn't know better. But anyway, yeah, I could have gone to work for Apple. I could have gone to work for Netflix in 1997. That was another company. Just like, you're our boy. Come work for us. Netflix was tempting. I totally got that business model. I got their business model. What I couldn't wrap my head around is like, but what are you going to be working on? That was the thing I couldn't wrap my head around. Anyway, I'm going to use my mug. It has styrofoam in it and it's a little dusty. Otherwise, I would pour water in this. Let's see what else we got here. Nope, our economy's not. I first heard the term late-stage capitalism listening to people during Black Lives Matter when I'm covering this and doing videos, and I'm not a hardcore capitalist. I was once a Reagan Democrat, but I keep moving the other direction. This way, well, that way. One camera's the right way, the other camera's backwards, so it's the wrong way. I said it earlier. Your value is not determined by your capital output. That is not your value as a human being. And yet that is the value we assign to ourselves here in the United States of America. It goes back to what I said earlier. If you weren't watching earlier, what's the first question we ask somebody after their name? What do you do? That's a pretty unique United States thing. A couple other countries. But most countries, that's not how they roll, including industrialized nations. As a matter of fact, like talk like that is, whatever. That means you don't want to talk to me. If you're under 40, here's my advice to you. Your employer does not give a shit about you. They do not care how many hours you work. You're getting nothing. You will not be with a hairline like mine going, I should have done more 2 and 3 days straight when I was at Compaq, and ignoring my kid at the time because, I wanted to move up the ladder and make an impression, and ADHD fixation, which I didn't know, and I'm hyper focused on solving this problem. Computer engineering and ADHD just fit like a friggin' glove. If you like what you're doing, you hyper focus in a way that you go. And this was a culture that rewarded this, working 2-3 days straight, working 96 hours in a week, which was the max. When I first started, I was hourly. That's the max hours you could work because they're technically operated as a manufacturing plant. So this was the thing was. I'm telling you, don't do it. It's not worth it. Your employer doesn't care. They don't care. If you're doing it for you, I don't know, maybe, and you need to look at your values. Because at some point, your value to society is just going to be like, well, now you old. And not everyone's capable of reinventing themselves or pretending they're young. And part of the reason why I think I'm a little more altruistic is I was really broke once upon a time. I've been broke. I've been like scary broke. And I've been all the way on the other side of the thing. It's rain, make it rain. And I'm in between, and I'm happy being in between. Teachers aren't paid enough. Teachers are treated like crap, and they have a plan. That's a whole separate TikTok one day. It's the day, like the South Park day. They have a very clear plan, and they want to privatize schools. They want to dismantle public schools. Not in every state, but in a lot of states, they want to privatize it because then they can control it. It's much easier to control if it's privatized. And there's reasons behind that. There's things that they're concerned about in the changing demographics in the United States. All my jobs have been caregiver jobs. Caregiving is such a hard thing, right? Because we have this aging population that are just getting older, and then they're on a fixed income, and Reagan screwed people over on Social Security. Hey, guess what? We're going to cut the tax for the rich, but to pay for it, we're going to start taxing your Social Security. But that's okay, because we're going to kind of try to convince you for the next 25 years that Social Security is actually just a Ponzi scheme. Right up until George Bush arrived and the whole stock market crashed in 2008 and went down ridiculously low. And then everybody was like, yeah, we're not going to be able to convince anybody to privatize Social Security for a generation now. And Gen X were just there you bastards. Just keep screwing us over. Looks like my lens is dirty I see some flares. Yeah, caregivers are not paid. Oh my goodness. I'm surprised I haven't got a cease and desist letter from Betsy DeVos. Everyone else is mad on our story about North Shore. Clinical labs. They don't like the truth. All right, let's see. Any other stuff here? We got to wind this down here. The world is, I don't know if the world is crumbling. The American experiment, the United States of America experiment is. No, we're not. We're the greatest nation in the world. At what? COVID cases, COVID patients, people imprisoned, people in parole, highest mortality rate for infants in the industrialized world. Is that what we're great at? Crumbling infrastructure, roads, bridges, power systems. We're good at that. Our internet infrastructure is behind a lot of places in the world. Our phone infrastructure is behind many places in the world. We're not set up. We spend almost $750 billion a year on a military that can't respond to any of seriously, cannot respond to the real ongoing threats that we face as a country. Some of those threats manufactured. We spent the last 20-ish years creating a military around the war on terror. I'm speaking as a Gen X Cold War kid here, and maybe some of my Reagan Democrats going to come out a little bit and piss some people off. Because the whole Cold War thing, it's hard to let go, right? Just like Gen Z, y'all are never going to let go of these friggin' school shooter drills. You're going to get to our age, you're going to be like, you messed us up with that shit. Because we're just like with the Cold War, Gen X is like, you messed us up with that stuff. We spent 20 years singing for the war. We're not going to have to fight a conventional war in Europe. And Russia's just kind of gone, yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, you died on Afghanistan Hill too, just like we did, just like every other country that's gone to Afghanistan. The British died on Afghanistan Hill. We died on Afghanistan Hill. The Russians have died on Afghanistan Hill. Every country going back to Genghis Khan has died on Afghanistan Hill. But yet some reason we decided, let's go to, and Russia was, oh yes, please. Just keep going, keep going. Yes, war on terror. Yes. Oh, yes. And now the Cold War kids, Gen X, were like watching what's going on in Ukraine. We're like, we know this dance music. We don't like this dance music. We were taught this would end bad. We were taught this would end really bad. Really like Flash. Oh, what's the bright Flash? Oh, I'm gone. That's what we were taught. That's what we were taught. We're the end game. We're these conversations where we're at. And we're not set up to deal with that. And we're not set up to deal with the other thing, which is disinformation. We have our cyber warfare capabilities compared to China, Russia, for that matter, Iran and North Korea, they're non-existent. And we're not funding it enough. And this is why disinformation is tearing us apart. And Iran, China, North Korea, and Russia, keep going. Oh, yes, 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 keep going, please. Oh, yes, please. Oh, yes. We're going to convince you that Hunga Tonga was not a volcano. It was actually a nuclear bomb. Yes, we'll spread that. Oh, yes, you're eating that up. Oh, that's great. Yes. And we're going to convince you of this. And it doesn't matter. And now like 30% of the people believe this stuff. They're like totally radicalized. It's past a tipping point. There's no pulling them back right now. I don't know how we get out of it. Our government is non-functional at a federal level. It's completely non-functional. You can't tell me our senators do anything beyond enrich themselves and the people they truly work for, which isn't us. Biden talked a good game. He hasn't delivered jack. We'll see, let's go Brit. Yeah, you know what? Trump talked a good game, and he didn't deliver jack. Because none of them deliver jack. And look, I'm going to piss a lot of people off. Bernie don't care about us. Something I heard about, this has been rolling around in my head for a while now. Where's Bernie? Where is Bernie? Where's Bernie in the conversation on the Voting Rights Act? Where's Bernie on the conversation of the Great Resignation? Where's Bernie defending all of the unionizations? And I get it, he did, but where's Bernie? He's nowhere because he doesn't care. Black Lives Matter protesters used to say, no good cops in a racist system. That was a chant they used to say. There are no good senators in a corrupt system. That includes Bernie Sanders. He's just part of the machine. He's just buying his time. Now, sure, Bernie not turning himself into a 100 millionaire. I'm not saying that. This country right now, for the 90%, the 95%, the workers in this country have more power in this moment, here and now, than they probably have had since World War II, when unemployment in this country was 1.2%, because if you had a pulse, you were working on the war effort. Never more power. There's an incredible shortage of workers. That was actually one TikTok where we like blew up, where we got 10,000 followers. That's where we broke 10,000 followers. This TikTok of like, where's the Great Resignation? Where's everybody gone? And that really resonated with a lot of people. I'm not talking communism ceasing meat production here. I'm just talking the workers have a lot of power right now. But they need a leader. They need an organizer. They need to stand up and go, you know, not one of the COVID shitstorm is going on right now, because that wouldn't be good optics. But, you know, maybe end of March, when things are starting to rebound a little bit, a general strike to kind of go like, you know what? We want some stuff. Never going to have the power you've got right now. And this crosses politics. This crosses left and right. Rural America, you're getting screwed. Let's look at what we were talking about earlier with the COVID testing, right? If you're in a rural area, you can't get COVID tests. If you're in a poor area, you can't get COVID tests. So who sets up there? North Shore Clinical Labs, Center for COVID Control, Dr. Clinical Labs, and all their little shell companies. And they take advantage of the rural, the minorities, and the poor. And you know it. Because if you're in a rural area in Eastern Washington and you have to get a COVID test, yeah, good freaking luck. Because that's what you're telling us. And where was everybody in Yakima going? Center for COVID Control. And what were people in Yakima saying? I'm not getting my test result. I feel sick. I've gone 3 times. I'm still negative. I don't understand. I'm getting sicker and sicker. And then they go to the friggin' hospital and told they're positive. This transcends left and right politics. You're getting screwed. And you're letting these bloodsuckers in Washington, D.C. divide you over nothing. Over this. We're ready to go yeet each other over this? Do you think about how ridiculous this sounds? And yet that's where we're at. Because they've got you so fired up. They got you so fired up, they can't even control you anymore on this issue. Not that it's an issue of control. But when Trump says, I got the booster, he gets booed. I don't know, I can't follow the guy anymore. He said, get vaxxed. The very things you say you were against are the things you're saying you want. Oh my God, we're moving to an authoritarian police state. Right? Actually, we agree with you. But then you go, you know what the solution to an authoritarian police state? We need an authoritarian police state to round up what I perceive and what I've been told by people like Tucker Carlson are my political enemies. What do you think is going to happen if you had your dream? Do you think they stop there? Okay. We rounded up all the communists and the socialists and the Marxists. We're done. Is that what's happened anytime ever in history? Ever? Do you think if they build those machines, they're not going to be reading your emails, listening to your phone calls? And then does it reach a point where Donald Trump says, well, I did it, and you tell your friend, well, I can't believe he said that, I can't support that, that your friend doesn't turn you in once we're in that place, and there's nobody left to speak up? Oh, now you're just scaring people. That's where it goes. That's the path it takes. That's the path we're on. Because of this. You're kidding. Our schools are Donald Trump said it. Candace Owens tried to trap him on China. Well, they're making kids wear masks in schools like it's communist China. And Donald Trump looks at her and says without blinking, well, I don't know about China, but their schools are what, second best in the world? And ours are 43rd. And Candace was just like, I don't know what to say to, you didn't just say what I think you just said. You just handed my ass to me. It's epic. By the way, I think Candace Owens was totally set up on that, and I think that was just a bunch of gaslighting moves. I don't think whether he believes it or not. I think it's like for people like me to go, see, he got something right. But I can see through that. But he is right. Our schools are terrible. We know the schools are terrible. You know, we know the schools are terrible. There are people that legitimately believe that a volcanic eruption was caused by a nuclear weapon, which is damn close to a scientific impossibility. And there are people that legit believe this. We did a TikTok explaining on how all of this is just ridiculous. Cold War kids, right? We know it's ridiculous. Like one of the things, there was no lava. That's how you know there was no lava. Oh, okay. You know, there was this big volcano here in Washington State. It's called Mount St. Helens. There was no lava. There's a lot of hot pyroclastic flows, a lot of hot gas, but there was no lava. Lots of ash, lots of hot steam, but no lava. Are we just going to ignore that? But there's people that believe it because they don't even understand 5th grade geology and 5th grade Earth. This is 5th grader science. It's so much. Somebody just got me way off on a rant. Our health system. What was the argument against socialized medicine? Well, you know, in Canada, if you want to get a hernia operation, you might have to wait 3 months. Guess what? Since March of 2020 in the United States, if you needed a hernia operation, you might have to wait 3 or 4 months. And it's not going to get better when this is over. Because our doctors and nurses are so done. People don't realize how many are going to quit. There are so many. Check, please. I'm done. Because Great Resignation. I got a college degree. I can go find a job doing something else. I am not going to work in an environment anymore when somebody comes into the hospital dying and then demands that I give them horse paste and healing crystals and vitamin C. Why did you go to the hospital in the first place? Why didn't you just put this flipping thing on your face? Ugh. See, I watched the Ashes blanket my sit. No, you didn't. It was a bomb. I love the rants. You all got me wrist totally. Well, apparently people on TikTok don't like the rants because, like, the whole audience let Nuking a Fault Line in Superman 3. Well, it was kind of like a James Bond movie, right? That they were using conventional boom boom, but that was also setting off all of the faults in Silicon Valley at the same time. You trigger volcanoes with vinegar. I don't know who just said that on TikTok, but you win the internet. All right, any more questions? We're going to wrap it up. We've been going like 2 hours. The haters are probably like mass reported all the videos of the page. I'm going to come off this and find fucking 4 more videos. That's what happened the last live. I just came in and just started mass reporting everything. I'm going to give it like 2 more questions and we're going to call it good. $3 years for a hip. Yeah. Greatest medical system in the world. Greatest at what? Waste? Monetary waste? Go. You want your brains to hurt? Go do a Google search on San Mateo, M-A-T-E-O, 2 words, San Mateo PPE. Go look at the news stories on the millions of dollars of PPE that is being left out in the rain or being shredded in San Mateo, California, including by hospital systems. Not just by suppliers, by hospital systems. And of course, the reporter's asking, well, who paid for this? We paid for it. Because when the CARES Act was passed, they didn't put any cash limit on it. We paid for it. Because this is making some blood-sucking senator rich. Why do you think Ron DeSantis wanted 30,000 doses of Regeneron at $2,400 a pop? Said to Florida, because aren't there people that own and invest that are in our Senate and in our Congress that make money when this stuff is used, even though it's useless? They don't care about you. Wake up. Step 1. Keep us from moving to fash. Step 2. We gotta do something different. What's up with pie? I don't get that one. Well, thank you so much. I'm in Western Wa. I mean, we're certainly good at exporting democracy at the barrel of a pew-pew. We're going to bring you democracy, and you're going to like it. You find this alive. So we're wrapping it up, Pam. I'm sure the mods and admins are like, well, he just wrap it up. And no, I love my country. He hates America. I don't. I love my country. I got sent home with MEPS. Failed my flight physical. Star-spangled eyes once upon. There's a whole other side of malcontent. I love this country. I want to be proud of my country like I used to be. I hold out a shred of hope. We can get there. But the clock's running out. And if you really think that the rest of the world's powers, like if this country goes full fash, if you really think the rest of the world powers is going to like go, whatever. Yeah, there was another country that kind of banked on people going, well, we just the most powerful one around. So yeah, well, we're just going to go, yeah, whatever. No, everybody got together and dogpiled on them. And ironically, they're now the shining they're as close to the shining beacon of democracy and the planet as you can get. Irony of ironies. I do. I want. Not everything we've done is awful. We do some amazing things. But we're not doing a lot of amazing things. And there are things that, look, we all bag on boomers, right? Right? Come on, let's face it. Come on. Sandworms. Been 1 minute. Sandworms. Hate them? I hate them too. No offense, any boomers watching, but boomers. You hate them, right? Hate them too. But let's not forget, the boomers built the Eisenhower. It was started by the greatest generation, but the boomers built the Eisenhower highway system, the greatest public works project in the history of the world. That was all public money. We built our interstate system. It took 40 years to build. It's crumbling and falling apart because, oh my goodness, rebuilding that highway system, which is just the backbone of our commerce and actually one of the things that makes us great, well, that's socialism. Pavement is socialism. It's just, they built the Eisenhower highway system, put a man on the moon. Well, it doesn't really do no, but you know what? It gave us weather satellites. It gave us the communication networks that we have. It gave us the communication networks that we have, right? Just there's so much we got by putting a man on the moon. It wasn't just putting a flag on the moon and go, we beat the Russia. That definitely was part of it. That was all socialism. That wasn't private money. That was socialism. Then we got to a place we couldn't even hitch a ride. We had to hitch a ride with Russia for 11 years. We had no way to even get to space. China's got their own space station. China's going to the moon. Look at China's high-speed rail. Well, high-speed rail won't work here tonight, so no one ever ride the high-speed rail. Anybody who's ever lived in the mid-Atlantic or the east, the northeast states to the mid-Atlantic, what are you talking about? Rail's amazing. I've told this story before. I moved to Texas when I was young. And there was a buddy. We're all hanging out, making new friends, drinking beer. And they were lamenting that they had to go somewhere in Louisiana. I can't remember what town. It's inconsequent. It's not, I would remember New Orleans. It's not New Orleans. But they had to go to one of the bigger, not Baton Rouge either, some other one, but a city. And they were like, we're in our 20s, we're broke, we don't have great cars. And he's like, my car or truck, it's like, you'll never get there. And I just, took a sip of my beer. My mouth to God, I was wearing this hat. I've had this hat. People are like, did you buy that hat to make fun of people from the... No, this is my fucking hat and I bought it in Texas. It's my hat. I was probably wearing this hat without even blinking. I just take the train. I thought they were going to get a rope. What train? What do you mean, what train? Train. Let's take the train. I did it. Grandfather died, was going to the funeral. My car broke down on the interstate. Parents came, picked me up, drove me to Boston. Took a train to Philadelphia. I'm dead serious. They're looking at me like I was nuts. We didn't have internet or cell phones, so there was no way for me to cell phone myself and go, here, let me show you. Oh, there are no trains. Oh, you take a bus. People would ride trains. I don't like the train. Put a man on the moon. Eisenhower highway system. The internet. Internet started as a government project. GPS. Boomers gave us GPS. GPS was military. We take GPS for granted. That was socialism. That GPS, that's socialism. Socialism. No, it's not. GPS is not socialism. Yeah, it is. The government funded that. Socialized medicine doesn't work. I see. So the largest medical institution in the world is the VA, or in the United States is the VA. And the VA is pretty broken. Spend some time in an inner city hospital. No more broken than that. Or spend some time in a rural hospital where they're all going bankrupt because private equity wants to squeeze them out. I'll close with this thought. And I'm probably preaching to the choir because I wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of TikTok anyway, because for the most part, it just pulls and trolls and people aren't going to listen. They gutted the inner cities. The South Park, they're bastards. They gutted the inner. There's nothing left. They've created food deserts, banking deserts, job deserts. In other words, what that means is there's not a bank around, there's not a grocery store around, there's no jobs around. They've gutted all of it. Schools are paid through property taxes, so the schools are trash. And they've chewed up everything that they can chew in the inner cities. So they've moved to a new place to chew up. And that's rural America, which is white, working class, and angry. And I'll say this. I'm going to say it in both cameras. I'm going to say it twice. You have every right to be angry. You have every right to be angry. Because you're right. Your way of life is being taken away from you. I'll say it over here. Your way of life is being taken away from you. But it's not being taken away by who you think. It's not liberals who bought your little rural hospital. That's a private equity firm that did, with deep political connections. And the private equity firms do one thing: squeeze every dollar out of that place until there's no more dollars left to squeeze, and then close it. And then you have no hospital. It's not liberals who decided to close the bank in your town. That was shareholders and boards of directors who are real chummy with your senator and Congress critters, who looked at a balance sheet and said they could just bank on the internet. But then there are some areas you go, well, but I don't even have, I can't even send a text on my phone. How do I do mobile banking? We can get internet, through the cable, and overpay for something that has the speed of DSL from 20 years ago. And then they tell you you're doing good. The town grocery store closed, right? That disappeared years ago. The privately owned town grocery store, you know the one, because I lived in a town of 800 people growing up. The store was Century Super. So you think some people look at you and say, you're just liberal. No, I've been in your shoes. Century Super, we went in, little tiny grocery store. They knew your name. They knew your parents' name. People could go in that store and buy on credit, on their word. You remember this stuff? And then the Walmart came. Now, in this case, it wasn't Walmart. It was Big Y. But then Walmart came. And they closed all these little businesses down. But what will Walmart say? It's okay, you can come work for us for minimum friggin' wage, but it's okay because you can apply for food stamps and things. And it's okay because at least you're working. So you earned it. That's what they convince you. But it's just the taxpayers that are supplementing Walmart's thing. And then the bean counters at Walmart decided, because the inner core of the town disappeared, the little family store disappeared, all of those jobs disappeared. And then the private equity firm that bought the mill or the factory or the call center or whatever was there, yeah, some bean counter decided to send that overseas. That wasn't some liberal. That was Washington, D.C. that set up policies to reward them to send it overseas so they could make more money. So then people started moving away. Now, maybe you decided that you were going to stay because this is my daddy's land. I'm not saying that to belittle you. I am saying this with the utmost of respect. It's my daddy's land. It's my grandparents' land. We've had hard times. It's going to come back. And what's your senator tell you? I'm going to get that factory back. I'm going to get that coal mine open. I'm going to get that distribution center. Right? That's what they've been telling you. For how long now? 20 years? 25 years? 30 years? And then the Walmart closed because some bean counter in Benton, Arkansas, not a liberal, goes, well, it's not profitable to have the Walmart here. There's just not enough people. And it's okay. Instead of driving 20 miles, they can drive 60 miles. You know, if you're in this situation, you know just what I'm talking about. You know I'm spitting the truth. You know it. So what did you get? You got a Dollar General. And that's your grocery store. And that's your clothing store. And that's your hardware store. And that's your feed store for your pets, not your livestock. And that's what you got. That's liberals' faults? That's conservatives' faults? No. It's neither's faults. It's not your fault. You have every right to be pissed. You have every right to... You're right. Your way of life isn't being destroyed. It's destroyed. And it is never coming back. Because they gutted the inner cities, so there's nothing left. They have moved to rural America. And they did it with the help of the politicians that got you fired up over shit like this, so that you're so, my rights and freedoms over a flippin' mask, that you're blind to being the metaphorical frog in the pot of water and what's really going on. What's happened to your schools? Critical race theory is destroying. If you're like in Benton County, there is no threat to critical race theory in your schools. The jobs are going away, the people are moving away, the tax base is shrinking, and that's why your schools are going to crap, because your schools are paid by property taxes. That system we set up. It works really well in a community where I live. It doesn't work very well in the inner cities. Doesn't work very well in rural America. But it's critical race theory. Okay. You're in a town that has no friggin' cell coverage, or, can barely make a call. Your school's got computers from 10 years ago, no internet connection. The books that they use are from 20 years ago and falling apart. And the kids don't understand how a volcano works. See how I brought that full circle? He's like, I was just on a total rant. No, I just brought it all the way back. Do I get points for bringing it all the way back? And kids don't even know how a friggin' volcano works. Couldn't pass a 6th grade class to understand the difference between a coronavirus and a flu virus. They're stuffed animals, for the love of God, that explain it. Plushies, whatever you want to call them. And the schools in Russia are better. The schools in China are better. We're getting our asses handed to us. And it's what they want. Because people who don't question, who are fed a steady diet of fear, and that's what you're fed, a steady diet of fear. And you're in your echo chamber of fear. Tucker Carlson's the gateway drug. And you go further down the holes. Eventually might get to Stu Peters or Mike Lindell. You get to where, like, have you seen Stu Peters? He really said, oh. Amanda Rose did a video once, Stu Peters, and it was half speed because, like, on TikTok you do, and she had it on half speed by accident, but she published it anyway. Stu Peters was totally watchable on half speed. It was hysterical. It was just, he totally just turned into you like drunk uncle on Thanksgiving. Let's talk about what's going on in Washington, D.C. today. Oh my God. Yeah, Kimberly, it's part of it. We all share the same planet. We're making it uninhabitable. Fear of science and math. People fear things they don't understand. It's not a fear of science and math. It is a lack of understanding of science and math. We don't teach art. We don't teach music in the schools anymore. That's foo-foo stuff. That stuff teaches you to think critically. That was the purpose of teaching. Ours was the last generation, Gen X. Art and music class. Maybe millennials. If you're in a wealthy school, I know, if you're in a wealthy school, oh, no, we still got, yes, because you're in a wealthy school district. Not in rural America. We send kids to school. You know, this is, I did the TikTok. This is actually another one where a ton of people found this TikTok I did on why Gen Z and Gen X, right? Gen X, we went to the school thinking we would be yeeted at any moment. Now, we didn't think it would be a pew-pew. We just thought it would be the Russians. There'd be a flash and we're all gone, if we're lucky. Because by the time Gen X went to school, this whole thing of civil defense and you could survive and we'll rebuild this was out the window. This was just, we're all going to fry. And if you're lucky, you'll fry in a couple of seconds. And if you're unlucky, you get to suffer for a few days. That's what we grew up with. Early 80s, a bunch of my friends were like, what's the point? Really? We're supposed to like do it? Really? For what? To get yeeted? He used to make terrible jokes too about it. Gen Z, you go to school just waiting for somebody for a pew-pew. There was a shooting. Seminole, pew-pew, Seminole, Florida. They had the kids back in school the next day. Like nothing happened. Got to get them ready for the real world. Because, you know, burying those deep feelings deep down inside works so well for Gen X. So we're going to teach the alphas that now. You alpha generation, you just need to bury your feelings about the fact that there was pew-pew here yesterday and somebody got pew-pewed, and just show up to school tomorrow like nothing happened. Because that's how it's just going to be now. By the way, I'm 2A. I'm 2A friendly. I'm very 2A friendly. And I'm just against bona fide people that just, it's not the pieces. Yeah, maybe not. That's a majority of people that view that, including members of the NRA. 68%. 68% of NRA members are in favor of full universal background check at a federal standard. 68%. I used to be an NRA member a long time ago. I'm probably going to unfollow a long time ago. I was an NRA member when the NRA was the NRA. when it was about gun safety. And because the NRA once upon a time was about education, gun safety, how to use guns properly, respect. I'm saying the word gun. I'm probably pew pews, pew pews, pew pews. And then it all changed. Like in the late 80s, early, it just all changed. And I was like, yeah, this is not the org for me anymore. NRA used to be very different. Absolutely. NRA is just an unrecognizable organization from what they were. Well, some of us were. Some of us weren't. Depends where you grew up. I grew up in an area where there's a fair lot of infrastructure where certain countries would be very interested in wiping out as part of a first strike. And we were very aware of that. So it all just depends on where you go. We had air raid sirens go off once a week. They did, but there would be like a practice. Air raid sirens go off Wednesday at noon. All clear would be Wednesday at 12:05. And people stopped. If things were tense, like 83, boy, if you're not aware of like the tension that was going, you said you graduated in 1983. I'm not calling you out. Don't feel like I'm calling you out. When you're done with this, Google Operation Able Archer. It is the closest the world ever came to being a cinder. The Soviets were like, we're being attacked. They were absolutely convinced they were being attacked, and they authorized a counterstrike. What they believed wasn't a first strike, but a counterstrike. They gave the order. The command and control, it didn't fall apart. It took longer to kind of get all the message out. The reality was, had they been what they thought was responding to a real strike, it would have been catastrophic for them. It would have been this wild scenario where we pulled it off. There's radiation everywhere, but we're still pretty intact. But seriously, look up Operation Able Archer, 1983. Able Archer was a simulation. It was a not a simulation like the movie War Games, but it was a simulation. But the simulation was so real. It involved the political leaders of multiple countries. It involved NATO command and control. It involved, we're going to go ahead and move the president right onto Air Force One. We're going to fire up the Looking Glass planes. Looking Glass planes at that time were flying all the time. So the Soviets are looking at all of this, and they're like, it's a first strike. And they're like, what do you think? It's like, yes, they're doing a first strike. That's how close. They metaphorically push the button, turn the key, whatever you want to use. I'm not making it up. Go look it up. And it's only because it took longer than they thought. And in that 20 minutes, where they're like, okay, we pushing the button, but nothing happening. Call tech support. I'm really simplifying what's going on. We need to get tech support on the phone. I pushed the button, nothing happened. Nothing happened, nothing happened. I told you we need tech support. And in the 20 minutes that took to happen, they were like, you know what? It's not a first strike. They do a war game. That's all. It's a war game. Think about if they pushed the button and it worked. Because what would they seen on the other side? They're doing a first strike. Well, it's okay. We're in the middle of a game. We're all set up to go anyway. Things were tense in 83. So the whole point of that was we do the air raid sirens every Wednesday at noon. All clear would be at noon, 12:05, 5 minutes later. A few minutes pause and they all clear. And where things were really tense, and when things knew were tense, and again, I'm in an area with a lot more infrastructure. You may have grown up in a different area than me. But when things were, people stopped. People literally, not like stopped, but people were listening for the all clear. That's what I grew up in. Barred. I was in the military then. The Cuban Missile Crisis, that was really close. Right? There's one, Russian admiral. They were absolutely convinced that they were being depth charged. They wanted to fire a nuclear torpedo. Normally it would require 2, but because this, I believe it's an admiral, was on the submarine, there were 3, and the one would not authorize. So literally one person saved the world. Cuban Missile Crisis. Showed a new mug again. It's a new mug. It's a new, my Lord, thank you for the mug. Shannon, thank you. I don't think anybody would. But in the 50s and 60s, they spent all this money on civil defense and convincing people like, you can survive this and we will rebuild and persevere and live the American lifestyle and dream. They made movies, they made video, but they were movies, they made movies, they showed them, they had manuals, civil defense bunkers filled with food and see would go to them. And then they were like, okay, this isn't working. We're going to go with mutually assured destruction. And mutually assured destruction has worked. The problem is, there aren't too many people left alive anymore that have seen firsthand an airburst boom. So we don't know, and we have such short memories. Yeah, exactly, the bunkers that are for sale now. Brian, moral of the story, be a good person and help each other out. Exactly. One thing I will say, I'll close on, I just got all heavy and ranty and there's like hardly anybody watching. I probably lost followers. I'm going to put on the hat because I want to talk positive about the South. Here's something I did observe in living in the South. When the crap hits the fan in the South and things go south, something that I observed there is the divisions, not fully, but in a lot of cases, the divisions over class, income status, beliefs, religion for the most part, even race for the most part. Like when there's a hurricane or a tornado or like in the South, that all goes away. It's really stunning in the South. It all goes away. But then it'll come back afterwards. It's kind of it's a shame it just can't be like that all the time. But I saw that firsthand living in the South multiple times. I wear my mask, I'm vaccinated, socially distanced. Why is it so hard? It shouldn't be hard. All right, I've been on way later than I want, and Cajun Age, great. Roger over on the other channels, Cajun Age is a great example. TikTok, I think we're going to wind it up because there's like hardly anybody watching anymore. And God only knows how many videos I probably lost in the math reporting from the people that hate the channel. But anyway, TikTok, I'm going to call it good night. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Maybe we need to do Thursdays. I know Friday we're probably competing with a lot. I know we didn't have as many eyeballs on the Friday we do. I appreciate all you too. And don't forget, Splendid Saturday, only good news, we open another package. So thank you again for the mug. Malcontent out. They really need to work on this button, TikTok. All right. This is the same for you all here too. Thank you, everybody. Be good to each other. Malcontent out.
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontent Antifa, fuck you!
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.